press has made this more into about commercial service, and that's really not what this is about. Of course, that's what sells newspapers. That's what gets big airlines to say things in newspapers and people to get all concerned. But the reality is, the first thing we ever even worked on was not, commercial service, and it's not the focus of what we're doing. That may come. It's not. It is a part of this, but it's a very small part. I don't need to tell you this. Paulding has been, top for growth. Why is that? Well, I think part of the reason why is because you have leadership that treats this more like a business than a bureaucracy. That was key for us. When we first went into this, when I met David for the first time, I said, you guys, you really will have to want to do this. There may be some pushback. Of course, I was referring to what I had just gone through, and I said, I'm not going to try to sell you on this. It's something you either want to do or you don't want to do, and that's fine. If you don't want to do it, that's okay. And he said, this is not about David Austin. This is about providing for future generations, and people don't like it, they don't have to vote for it. To me, that was like one of the most refreshing things I've heard in years from anybody in political office. That's the kind of, in my opinion, that's the kind of leadership that gets things done. Not worrying about what's popular or what the right vote may be for that time, but it translates into what it will do 10 or 20 years from now. So this is the vision: jobs, sustainability for generations, best in class, really put Paulding County out there as a great place to live and work and have a balance between the two. The one thing I have noticed is that this community is small enough where it feels like a family. The level of trust that I see throughout is pretty unusual. I don't feel like this is a community of 150,000 people. I feel like it's a community with a couple thousand people because everybody seems to be on the same page, and people seem to truly care.
If for some reason the commercial side gets tanked by whoever, I read that y'all were going to do something on your own to go around it anyway, but even if that is blocked, would you go ahead with all this commercial trying to get jobs, et cetera, without the commercial piece?
Absolutely. So it's a very good question. We're not starting our own airline. That I can assure you. It's not a business I want to be in. But doing the deal, at least in our minds, with the county, had the development side had to stand on its own, because I don't know when commercial is going to come. It may come in a month, it may come in a year, or it may never come. That's not what we're basing it on. So, yes, we will continue. The company is being committed to the project. Sure.
That aerial of the airport with those companies listed, are those the companies that are already committed?
I wish. We don't think we know this. No, these are examples of what we're going
just examples.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
What experience do you and Propeller have in operating any other commercial airport?
That's a very good question. So Gil Morgan.
To this scope,
This scope, not to this scope, but...
so zero.
Well, no, actually, so Gil Morgan, our Chief Operating Officer, who I'm happy to let you talk to, he's here almost all the time, ran all terminal facilities for Delta Airlines at Hartsfield. So it's a little bit bigger than this, but I think that with the scale, we're able to handle it. So he ran all the terminal space for them, he negotiated all the leases. He also is in charge of all corporate real estate in Atlanta and 23 other cities. And then when he was at AirTran, he ran about 40 different cities for AirTran. So. My
question was about you and Propeller.
Well, our people have experience in this area.
Okay, so I assume that you have no experience.
Me personally?
No direct experience in
I'm providing the money and providing our business contacts to bring people here. Blake is running the airport. Okay, he runs the infrastructure side, he's good at it, and that's their responsibility. Our responsibility is to bring in the business.
Blake, what experience do you have in operating a commercial airport?
Operating? Mm-hmm. I have no experience in operating.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
A question that I hear people ask all the time is, how could the 2 flights a day that you're claiming the airport would handle roughly,
It's a start.
approximately.
Actually, it's not 2
Starting.
flights a day, it's like 2 flights a week.
2 flights a week. Better yet, how can that possibly support the operations of the airport?
Well, because see, we're going after the other things like Rockwells of the world and Gulfstreams and those types of companies. So that's just a piece of it. And, you know, so to us, if you have already had, now, if we got to build a facility, if you got to build a brand new terminal, that would be a different story. But the terminal was there, so we didn't have to build a multi-million-dollar facility. We're renting it now. It's a terminal that hasn't been used since really, 2010. So, you know, from our perspective, we're also helping the county out because we're now able to offset some of their costs by leasing this out. But again, the commercial service aspect is not the driver. If this airport did not have a white sheet to work on it, I'm not sure we'd be here. Because that's where it's going to come.
Okay, so the commercial really is not essential.
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Just one quick question, Mr. Smith. First, I thank you for coming here today and talking to everybody. I appreciate you taking the time. Good information. I wish that we could have had it at a bigger location and had more of the citizens around and got their questions answered. But I think you've answered a lot of questions this morning, but some of what that I have seen out as I'm talking to people, emails, phone calls, and so forth, their number one concern that they have, the number one concern is the commercial piece of this pie. That's number one. The citizens are for the jobs, they're for economic development, they're for bringing businesses in here. They're for all that, but the commercial piece of that pie, they're not. And a lot of them are worried that we open up the door for 2 flights a week, it becomes 2 flights a day, and then what is it going to be down the road in the future? Because they feel like once that door is open that they can't control it. So that's their number one concern. So my question to you today is this. If that piece of the pie is not the most important thing, and we can do everything else without the commercial side of it. I live in that area. If we could do everything else without the commercial end of it, would you consider not doing the commercial? Because the commercial end of it's where, from what I can tell, you're getting your kickback. That's where everybody's pushing back. They don't want to see it. They want the jobs. They want the airport to be successful. They want to bring industry into that. That's been the design from the beginning. But the commercial piece of the pie is what they don't want. So would you consider not doing that, and then a lot of this would go away, and I think we would have
I want to
all the
answer that
citizens in the
first,
county.
because we got the same kickback when we tried to do a memorandum of agreement with the military to allow the National Guard to come in and do training. We got the same kickback. And I'm of the opinion that if we had somebody coming in here and doing a facility to do maintenance on aircraft, the same small group of individuals that's raising so much cane would be saying, all those planes are getting maintenance done on them. They're going to fall out of the sky. They're not safe. I think we'd be getting the same kickback no matter what.
I think it would be different. I think if you bring, 737s in and land, and you're refurbishing and painting and remodel new engines, whatever it is you're doing, and they're coming in and that's what they're, I think that would be different. I'm just saying that as a person in the community, I appreciate you being here this morning, answering questions, but as a person in the community, that's the number one thing that I'm hearing is that commercial side of the pie that they're nervous about. And I don't blame them.
I think that me and Blake, we've discussed this, would be more than happy to have meetings up at the airport. Anybody who wants to come and answer questions and listen. Because I think one of the biggest problems is people don't understand, and they all of a sudden, they start, you Google anything, you get the answer you want today. So, planes crashing, jet fuel, you see all these things, and
I understand, but I think what they're most nervous about is if we open the door to this just 2 flights a week now, what's it going to be in the future that they don't have any control over? And that's what they're
Here's the final answer.
you're
not answering the
But
question.
Todd, you're
It's a
assuming that
federal- it's a
everybody
federal-
doesn't want commercial flights.
No, I'm not. The people that I'm talking to talking to that are out there, that's what they're concerned about. The rest of it, I feel like they support you 100%.
Yeah.
And so I'm here to say that they support you with most of it, but the commercial side of it is where they're scared, they're concerned.
Well, I can give you my opinion. I think it's irrelevant.
Okay.
Obviously, it would be fairly on one side. The reality is, we can't. If you have a train station, couldn't say Amtrak can't come here, but everybody else can. There are certain things that we can and can't do. These are federal dollars that are going into this facility, and there's certain things that we're going to have to do. Now, the reality is whether look, I'm not going to comment on one particular company's comments, but when I hear it's very unprecedented to hear a CEO of a company basically telling the county that they're not allowed to go to their county because he doesn't like it. Well, I mean, I think that's it starts with a C and ends with a P. Okay, I don't think that's fair. Again, we're here as a partner on the business side. Okay, so I'm not going to comment on that. I certainly don't think the relevance of the mayor of Atlanta telling him what he thinks is. I mean, you might as well ask Vladimir Putin what he thinks because it's irrelevant. But I don't even know where I'm going with that.
That's